The illusion that contaminated the world. How Boeing and the American National Crediting Board shattered trust in global standards. Ladies and gentlemen, for more than 2 decades, the aviation world and far beyond aviation has lived under an illusion. Not a misunderstanding, not a clerical oversight, an illusion that spread like a cancer across the industries, borders, and regulatory systems. An illusion that started in 2002 when Boeing, one of the most iconic names in American manufacturing, projected to the world that it was AS9100 certified, and yet behind closed doors, behind polished websites, behind the corporate talking points and industry rhetoric stood a brutal truth. Boeing was not certified to AS9100, and ANAB knowingly allowed the illusion to exist. ANAB knowingly allowed the illusion to exist. This didn't stay contained inside the walls of airplane factory. No, this deception seeped into every single quarter of global commerce that relies on accreditation certification. And today we must confront the reality. If ANAB colluded with Boeing once, how can we have reliability with any organization that maintains an ANAB logo or its international equivalents and any certificate in any industry? Because let's be absolutely honest. No white paper from the TC 176 committee, no committee language from ISO, no diplomatic wording from accreditation boards, none of the verbiage compares to the scale of deception that Boeing and ANAB allowed to take root. The examples that terrify industry. Let's walk through this illusion actually caused. What it caused. Example 1. Suppliers forced into compliance, tens of thousands of suppliers were told explicitly or implicitly that to do business with Boeing, they must carry an AS9100 certificate. Many of these suppliers spent millions of dollars on audits, thousands of hours preparing documentation, countless days hosting oversight teams from ANAB sanctioned registrars, and all of it under the belief that Boeing, the top of the supply chain, was holding it itself to the same standard, except Boeing wasn't certified to AS9100 for 23 years. This is not simply hypocrisy. This is forced compliance under false pretense. Example 2, logistics and aviation service providers like UPS, DHL, Amazon, and FedEx, and countless maintenance and repair providers all rely on AS and ISO derivatives to demonstrate reliability, traceability, and safety. But what happens when one of the largest aircraft manufacturers in the world ignores the very standard they require everyone else beneath to follow them? It breaks the chain of trust. It destabilizes the foundation of modern logistics, and it mocks the very idea of accredited certification. Investors, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Fidelity, and other institutional investors collectively owned 80% of Boeing. They poured billions into a corporation they believed was operating inside a rigorous accredited quality system. But the truth is this: they have invested in an illusion. And every shareholder report, every risk assessment, every audit trail that referenced Boeing's quality management system was built on a foundation that did not exist. The cancer spread across industries. The AS and ISO standards aren't just for aerospace. They influence nearly every major industry on Earth, like ISO 9001 for manufacturing, logistics, healthcare, 13485 ISO medical devices, IATF 16949 automotive, ISO 14001 environmental management, ISO 45001 occupational safety, ISO 27001 for informational security, ISO 50001 energy, ISO 22000 food safety, ISO 17025 laboratory, ISO 22301 business continuity, ISO 20000 IT service management, ISO 20022 financial messaging and banking infrastructure, and every one of these standards flows through the same accreditation model. ANAB in the United States and its international equivalents such as UKA's, JAB, DACAS, CONFRAC, and SEC, and countless other worldwide. So if ANAB was willing to blur the truth, willing to turn a blind eye, willing to maintain the illusion that Boeing was operating under accredited aerospace quality discipline, then what assurance does any industry have that their certification trail is legitimate? What assurance does a hospital have about ISO 13485 for a medical device? What assurance does automotive have for IATF 16949 compliance, or 17025 for laboratory, or ISO 27001 oversight for cybersecurity, or ISO 20022 for financial institutions? Are being properly validated by accredited vendors? When the accreditation system fails once, it compromises everything it touches. The global scale of fraud. Make no mistake, this is not an aerospace issue. This is a global quality crisis. What Boeing and ANAB created was a long-term illusion that became embedded in government contracts, supplier approval lists, FAA and DoD audit pathways, commercial aviation agreements, export compliance, safety certifications, insurance underwriting, international trade policies, financial transaction systems of ISO 20000, 2022 messaging networks. Everywhere Boeing's name appeared, the assumption was the same. They must be AS 9100 certified. How could they not be? Because the accreditation ecosystem is designed on trust. Trust in the regulator, trust in ANAB, trust in the International Accreditation Network. But trust without verification is not compliance. It's corruption disguised in paperwork. The heart of the issue. People ask, how could Boeing require AS 9100 certification for its suppliers in July of 2002 without holding certification themselves? Because ANAB allowed it. Because ANAB maintained the illusion. Because the American National Crediting Board provided the credibility umbrella without enforcing the compliance beneath it. This is why today's discussion matters. It's the apex of American aerospace. If the apex of American aerospace can evade accredited certification for 23 years while displaying the ANAB illusion, influenced illusion of quality, then the entire accreditation system must be called into question. The call for truth. We must demand accountability, not slogans, not white paper responses, not technical explanations from committees. The world doesn't need more verbiage. The world needs honesty, because this is not merely a failure of process. This is a betrayal of public trust. Betrayal of suppliers and investors, workers and regulators, and yes, a betrayal of the flying public and the banking public, who assumes their planes, devices, financial messaging infrastructures were built upon the best quality systems on earth. The world deserves answers, and Daryl Guberman is here to give them to you. How did the illusion stand unchallenged from 2002 to 2025? How did ANAB justify allowing its logo to remain a symbol of trust while enabling deception at the highest level? How can the world continue to rely on a certification schemes that collapse the moment transparency is required? These questions must be answered not by committees, not by PR departments, but by the leadership willing to confront the truth. And in closing, ladies and gentlemen, this illusion ends today, because truth, once spoken with clarity, destroys illusion, and the world cannot rebuild trust until this lie is fully exposed. I thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, I, Daryl Guberman, have exposed the largest industrial and fiduciary scam and fraud this world has ever seen, built under the premise of quality certification, built under the premise of Boeing being AS 9100. When you had the vice president of Boeing in June 27, 2024 say that Boeing is willing and prepared to get AS 9100, and we've been doing internal auditing as if we were certified and we are compliant. In quality, there is no such thing as compliance. And that started July 2002. Right after 9/11, right after Boeing made an announcement that they were going to be laying off over 20 to 30,000 people on September 19th, 2001. Yes, and do you know something? For 23 years now, Boeing built 12,000 aircraft, approximately 400 plus military aircraft in an unverified, uncertified, unsanctioned system. And guess what? To prove my point, I went out to Boeing in October of 2024 to confirm what Elizabeth Lund said. And I must have tallied up, canvassed about 300 to 600 people at Everett, Renton, Auburn, and Northfield. And do you know what they said about AS 9100? I don't know what it is. Do you know what they said about internal auditing? I don't know what it is. And they don't know what it is. So somebody was not telling the truth. I am here to tell you, as a Boeing shareholder, they screwed the investment firms of BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, and State Street, and the other investment people, okay? Because 80% of Boeing is owned by these investment companies. They were all screwed because the big guys jumped in with an illusion and everybody followed. FedEx, DHL, Amazon, and also UPS jumped in. Their aircraft are compromised. I'm going to tell that to you. When you're building an aircraft in an uncertified, unverified system, and you are giving the illusion of accreditation by sitting on the Management System Accreditation Committee of ANAB that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification, my number is 203-556-1493. I thank you.